Hello to everyone out there. I hope you and your people are doing well. Thank you for watching this episode of LeafHouse FreeThought Quick Takes. Quick Takes are 5 to 10 minute interviews and ideas to inform those that require brevity. As most of you know, I'm Adrian Ramirez, Senior Investment Analyst here at LeafHouse Financial. We're a third-party investment manager partnering with advisors in all 50 states and Puerto Rico. This allows us to accumulate knowledge and content from most of the major firms in the retirement plan industry. Not only will we interview important contributors from every aspect of the retirement plan industry, we're also going to work with partners that we heavily have contact with. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Bonnie Treichel, co-founder and chief operating officer of ZUNA, a national finance and benefit consulting firm. Hi, Bonnie.
Good afternoon.
So today we're going to be talking about ESG, something very important to Bonnie and myself. We recently did a NAPA summit discussing this very topic. For those that don't know, ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. Now, as an investment manager, oftentimes we're looking at ESG through the lens of investable assets. Today, Bonnie, as the co-founder of ZUNA, can you provide us any insight as to ZUNA's approach, both in-house and from an investment perspective?
Sure. Great question to kind of start us out today. So as you mentioned, we think about ESG in two parts. So first, it's really what are our values and how do we live ESG? And then the second is really how are we taking that to our clients, both in terms of participants or employees, as well as employers, or rather plan sponsors. So when we think about ZUNA and how we're living it every day, really, it's one of the reasons that we came together was to form around shared values. And so we're a relatively new organization, but not new in terms of, many of us have been in the industry for a long time, but we wanted to come together around these shared beliefs or values, a lot around things like diversity and inclusion, and not just to say that as a buzzword, but because we really believe it. And those are the types of things, the social aspect, as well as things like the governance aspects that really can make an organization really have. So just by way of example, our holding company is comprised of, we have 3 men and 3 women, and with very diverse backgrounds that were selected because of their diverse backgrounds in terms of skills, education, backgrounds. And so we brought them together for a reason, because we really believe that would be a better outcome for the organization and for what we could do in the industry and in the community. Other reasons would be that we really embrace diversity and inclusion, both within our organization. We have an RIA with a female president, and the RIA has greater than 50% female ownership, something that's very important to us and we believe will have a really good outcome. In our community in Portland, we sponsor events such as Women in Pensions doing a community event for International Day of the Girl next week, for example. So those are just a couple of the ways that we live those values, and we really believe it will have better outcomes. So really embracing that social aspect. The other part of your question, though, is, how are we taking that to clients, right? So not just how we live it as an organization, but what does that look like for our clients? And I would say we break it into probably 3 categories. So it's the education, the governance and documentation, and then the investment due diligence. I think most of the time we go straight to investment due diligence, but we really also think it's important to think in terms of the education piece, both at the plan sponsor and participant level, to make sure everyone has an understanding. And then also the governance, so like the investment policy statement, the meeting minutes, and then the investment due diligence piece. And I think you and I have similar approaches that, so I'll probably let you weigh in on how you guys do that, because you'll probably do a better job explaining.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the approach that your firm takes. We take a very similar approach. We're a minority-owned business. We, diversity and inclusion is very important to us. Oftentimes, when we're talking about ESG from a business structure, especially nowadays, right, we're very focused on the climate exposure or the environmental side, but that's only a third of the 3 buckets. Diversity and gender here at LeafHouse is very important. community involvement, making sure that we're giving back as a firm, as individuals within the firm, as stakeholders and shareholders, making sure that we have that commitment to excellence, to community and being proactive out there, important to LeafHouse. And then, of course, it goes without saying we're fiduciary, right? So making sure that we're always working within ethical business practices. That's key and top of mind as a 338 fiduciary, always making sure that we have the best interest of the business, the best interest of the retirement plans that we manage. So I appreciate your approach because it meshes so well with our approach, because it really does matter to our business going forward. And again, to your second point, the investment, the fundamentals behind why we would invest in an ESG related fund. LeafHouse has created LIST, or the LeafHouse Investment Sustainability Technology. What we do is we make sure that the investment is just a good investment first. We ignore the secondary prospective option of, is this an ESG related investment? And we focus on the fundamentals, the performance, the risk adjusted measurements, and the expense ratios. We use that via our existing GPA methodology. And then once it passes our initial methodology, we provide an overlay on top of that to make sure that, as an ESG fund, it's living up to its prospectus mandate, and that it's not greenwashing, or that there hasn't been anything behind the scenes that would cause us to question the investment viability behind it from an ESG perspective. So yeah, all very important in our business. And as a company and as a fiduciary for other investment plans too, that's all very important. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we did a NAPA summit. It was awesome. Me, you, Neil Weaver, our CEO, we hosted a couple of hundred people that attended our investment workshop discussing this very thing, ESG and what it means. You did a great job of describing the legal structure. Can you replay that for me and explain a little bit about the recently proposed DOL rule?
Sure. Yeah, as you mentioned, we had a great session together with all of the attendees. And I think one of the things that's been getting a lot of hype right now is this Department of Labor proposed rule. And the DOL's proposed rule, if we can take a step backwards for a moment, from my perspective, is not that different from, they had some guidance in 2018. It was in the form of sub-regulatory guidance or a field assistance bulletin in 2018. And that comes after a long line of going back and forth depending on which administration we have, right? So I think the thing to acknowledge is that the ESG topic is highly political to some extent, right? But what we're talking about today is that it doesn't have to be, right? Because there really is an acknowledgement that there can be better returns based on some of the things that your organization does when you're looking at just the pure numbers. But without getting too far down that path, because we could talk for a whole session on that, or probably a couple of days, right? So in 2018, there was proposed guidance, and then we have this in 2018, there was guidance from the DOL, and now this year in 2020, we have a proposed rule, and we're currently awaiting a final rule from the DOL. And what this really says is that despite all of the politics around it and all of the various comments to the DOL around it, it says that you can still have your investment lineup, or rather your designated investment alternatives. So that's just your core fund lineup. They can utilize ESG factors so long as, and I think you did a great job, Adrian, describing this earlier, so long as you're not giving up those, I'll call it pecuniary factors, to use the DOL's term, or rather financial factors. So you're still going to meet as a plan sponsor or as an investment advisor your fiduciary duty if you're selecting the investments based on the financial factors and not giving that up to any of these ESG, or rather non-pecuniary factors. So when ESG considerations are material economic considerations or important economic considerations, then it's okay to use ESG factors. So I think I just want to make the point that a lot of the commentary has been that ESG not okay to use that as a consideration under the DOL's proposed rule. And I think that scared off a lot of people from wanting to consider ESG right now. And from my perspective, that's not the case. It's just all about proper documentation. And as you said, sticking with your basic process first and ESG being a layer on top of that. The one distinction I would make is as it relates to the default option, the DOL does suggest both in the 2018 guidance, which is our current guidance, and the proposed rule that you do have to steer clear as it relates to the QDIA. So that's the guidance as we have it today, but I would say we have to keep just a lookout to make sure we're watching for what that final rule is, as it would be probably coming soon.
Yeah, there was a lot of comments and efforts made to dissect the DOL proposed ruling, and we're awaiting that any minute. But to your point, LeafHouse already looks at the pecuniary factors, right? We're looking at performance relative to the entire category, not just how the fund does at its particular objective. We've done such a good job as an industry of evolving from an exclusionary methodology or an impact investing methodology to where now we're working through an ESG integration phase that says, hey, give me your best investment option and invest in that company in my portfolio so that we can generate higher returns and avoid the downfall of a firm going through possibly litigation or coming up with some negative outcome that can detract from overall performance. So I think overall, there's a lot of people headed in one direction. The DOL put a little bit of a halt in that, but to your point, we're still getting lots of requests to add those to plans, or at least feeling out whether or not this is a possibility to move forward. So that being said, you and I were part of a great initiative with NAPA. We did the NAPA Summit, and now we're looking at building on that movement on ESG, and we are working with NAPA in creating a certification called the ESGK. Now, you're one of the lead curators and writers for this program. LeafHouse is proud to be one of the founding sponsors with 15 other asset management firms. There's a lot of money and a big initiative behind it to make sure that this succeeds. Tell me a little bit about what you're going through as you're helping curate content for the ESGK program.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to be working with LeafHouse and some of the other partners as well as NAPA in this great initiative, because I think for me, what I've really learned to recognize is that there's a lot of misinformation out there as it relates to ESG. And so it's a fantastic opportunity to, as you mentioned, as we're curating the content for advisors, to help to make sure we have a way to dispel the myths around ESG and bring to light really great content, as well as tools and resources that make ESG easy from an implementation standpoint. So the goal is to provide easy resources for advisors to take to their plan sponsor clients and then get that in the hands of participants so that ESG can be something that is easy to understand and easy to implement. So really excited to be working with LeafHouse on this, as well as NAPA and the other partners in this program.
I can't tell you how excited I am. The misinformation, demystifying ESG is so important to us. And candidly, it'll help my conversations that I have on a daily basis to say, it's okay. Like, these funds are doing the right things for the right reasons, and that they're performing at a high level. When we discussed during our NAPA Summit, we had some action steps. It was consider how ESG will impact your practice today, next year, and in the 5 years. Educate yourself, determine how you become educated, and prepare for this new way of reviewing qualitative and quantitative factors, right? I think ESG is going to be critical there. Take action. Determine how you evolve your practice and your plan to keep up with new and everlasting DOL guidance regarding ESG. And then just be involved, stay aware, up to date with DOL guidance, rely on your partners, rely on LeafHouse, rely on ZUNA, rely on NAPA. There's a lot out there that we can extract to make sure that we make this successful. Bonnie, I thank you for your time today. This was educating for me. I hope the audience enjoyed it. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me directly. I can always get you in contact with Bonnie, or Bonnie, maybe you can share your email address and they can reach out to you directly as well.
Absolutely. Great. And my email is just bonnie@teamzuna.com. So what a great discussion today, and always just a pleasure to partner with LeafHouse.
Bonnie, thank you very much. We'll chat again soon.